We're on Daf Lamed Ches, and we're almost on the bottom of Daf Lamed Ches Hamid Aleph. We did the Mishnah, and we're up to the Gemara. Now, what part of the Mishnah do we need for a safe takeoff? The Mishnah speaks about various cases in which we have to determine who inherits a Yevamot. Right? So her husband died leaving no children, and there's nechasim from her husband, the late husband, and then there are nechasim from what's called the Yavam, and she's a shomeres Yavam. And now she dies, and her nechasim second. So we said that there are two categories of nechasim. There are nechasim that are hers by virtue of the ksuba to the first husband, to the late husband, and then there are nechasim that she owns from Beis Avia, that she inherits from her father. Let's just read through the Mishnah quickly again. I just have to clear my head here, so if you don't mind. Shomeres Yavam shenafel on nechasim. So now we're talking about nechasim that she inherits from her father. Is modim Beit Shammai Beis Hillel shemocheres minosenes. The kayam means it's a valid transaction. In other words, she is the sole owner of these properties or possessions that she inherited from her father. Nobody denies that. Mesa, ma yase b'ksubasa. So we're going to have a machlokas now between Beis Hillel and Beit Shammai with regard to a shomeres yavam that died, who inherits her suva. Okay, this has to do with Nichsei Maluk versus Nichsei Tzon Barza. I'm not sure if we discussed that, but maybe we'll get back to that in a minute. I just want to get the overall picture of what's going on here. We have an estate with the death of the Yevamot, and there are two individuals or groups of individuals that are vying to inherit that estate. One is the Yorshei Ha'av, and the other is the Yorshei Ha'Baal. So what does this mean? Beit Shammai Omrim Yachloku Yorshei Ha'Baalim Yorshei Ha'av. In other words, Beit Shammai recognize the possibility of inheritance rights of the father. Beis Hillel Omrim Nechasim b'cheskasa, Oksuba b'cheskas Yorshei Ha'Baal. What is Beis Hill saying? Let's start with ksuba. So ksuba is bechezkas yorshei haba. Means that yorshei beis avia have no rights to her ksuba. So if I understand correctly, Beis Hill are arguing that as far as nechasim of ksuba, those are frozen, and they really belong to her husband, her late husband. And we have to work out the nitty-gritties because she survived her late husband. But in any event, Beis Hill are arguing that the nechasim of the ksuba are becheskas yorshei haba. What did Beis Hill say? Beis Hill said Beit Shammai said yachlok. We divide it up between yorshei habal and yorshei ha'av. In other words, whereas Beis Hillel negates the legal rights of yorshei ha'av, they don't have any rights to her ksuba. Beit Shammai say no. They have rights to her ksuba, equal rights as the yorshei haba. Let's see if anyone says why Beit Shammai recognizes the rights of yorshei ha'av. You have anything here? Maybe in your footnote? Again, I'm trying to figure out Beit Shammai recognizing the rights of yorshei ha'av on 50% of the estate. I don't know, this Rashi is not going to do it to me. I need more basics. You don't have a footnote there, maybe? I think we need a little bit more introductory material here. This Mishnah just like throws us into a whirlpool of variables here that, without any step-by-step introduction. Unfortunately, the Masechet disappoints me. It doesn't.
Number 18.
Oh, thank you.
Number 18.
18. Maybe this is going to give us a.
He's probably Russian.
There's a fundamental uncertainty regarding the status of a woman awaiting Yibum. Shomeres Yom. Is she or is she not regarded as the Yevam's wife, which is automatically conscious of the concept of Zika, with respect to property laws? Oh, he says this question does not seem to be related to the issue of whether or not we say Yesh Zika. He's coming Lafuke, the exact opposite of what I just said. I thought it's all dependent on Zika. He says the Zika bond is analogous to marriage with respect to the prohibitions, but not with respect to financial rights. Okay. It says, whereas a husband certainly inherits his wife if she predeceases him, it is uncertain whether a husband through Zika, meaning a Shomeres Yavam, inherits his Yevamot. Is he like a full-fledged husband and therefore the sole heir of the Yevamot? Or is he not like a husband? He sounds like I don't know. Anyway, or is he not like a husband? In which case, she is inherited by her paternal family. Since the matter is uncertain, the death of a woman awaiting Yibum results in competing claims for her estate. The husband's heirs claim that they are her heirs, which means, I guess, she's married through Yibum, through Shomeres Yavam. The father's heirs claim that they are the heirs. A woman can bring property into marriage. Okay, now he talks about Nixay Malud, Nixay Tzom Barza. Maybe we can skip that for now. Okay. Now we're up to Beit Shammai. Oh, he adds another point here in brackets. With regard to the ksuba payment, the issue is as follows. When a man dies and his wife falls to Yibum, his estate is held in trust. Trust, I think, means it's like mortgage. There's a lien on his estate, L-E-I-N. That's what I think you mean. His estate is held in trust to satisfy her ksuba payment. Because he died first, and then she dies second. When he dies, she becomes a Shomeres Yavam, and all the monies of the ksuba to her late husband are now in trust. The Yavam is entitled to the produce of that estate. If the Yevamot dies before Yibum, the question arises as to who inherits her rights to her first husband's estate. Is it the Yavam or her father's heirs? Are we getting this slowly? It's coming. What happened is that she died before they consummated Yibum. First he dies, right, her husband. We said that his estate is held in trust for the, for the purpose of paying her ksuba, but now she dies. And who inherits her rights to her first husband's estate, which was held in, as we said, in trust to pay her ksuba? Is it the Yavam, or is it her father and the heirs of her? And according to Beit Shammai, we're going to split the ksuba down half. Is that correct? Yachliku Yorshei Abal im Yorshei Ha'av. I have a suspicion that this Yachloku is what you call a suffix bedina. You follow what I mean? It's a halachic suffix. It's not a suffix that arises in reality. All the facts on the ground are crystal clear. We had a Gemara earlier where you don't know if the get fell closer to him or closer to her. That's not what we're talking about. Now, Yorshe Av, he quotes the Ritva, is another way of saying the woman's heirs, as opposed to her husband's heirs. Now, it is uncertain whether the woman awaiting Yibum has the status of a wife with regard to property laws. We must treat her as possibly a wife, and we have to address both possibilities. If she's a wife, then her husband, meaning the Yavam, inherits her property upon her death. If she is not a wife, then it is her father who inherits her property. Since her marriage status is uncertain, the two competing sides, that of the Yavam and her father, divide her property equally. Again, we're talking about the ksuba, right? It says ma yaseh b'ksubasi. Now, the ksuba itself is a kind of hybrid. It's a complex entity, right? Because there's the ksuba that refers to the ksuba, meaning the marriage itself. A marriage requires a payment of ksuba in event that her husband either dies or divorces her. We'll call it Masayim Zuz. Again, it depends whether she was ever married before, but to make life easy, we'll call it 200 Zuz. So it's a massive amount of money. Now, a ksuba payment is only relevant in the context of marriage. Therefore, there's no other possibility to inherit the ksuba other than the other, right? Because ksuba means marriage. I mean, but there are other nechasim that, let's say, she brought into the first marriage, and if we don't recognize the zika, again, I'm going to use the word zika siva. Again, he's pointing out zika siva means something else, but for our purposes, if we don't recognize that the status of this woman when she falls for yibum is that of a marriage, so then all hanachasim that she brought into the original marriage now accrue to her yorshim. That's, I think, the argument of Beit Shammai. Beit Shammai is saying, I'm not willing to sign on the dotted line that when she falls for Yibum, she's married to the Yomi. If she would be married to the Yomi, then we have a principle of Baal Yorish Ishto, period, hands down. He would get everything. But Yibum never took place. She was a Shomeres Yomi, but there was never Yibum. So Beit Shammai wants to, dig up her relatives, her father, and so forth, into the picture. Because we're not sure if she's married to the Yavam. But if anybody has a shaykhs to the ksuba itself, the Masayim Zuz, it's only the Yavam. I mean, that Beit Shammai can't disagree about that. He can only argue about the status in Yerusha of her Yarshim with regard to monies and properties other than the Masayim Zuz, other than the ksuba itself. That's what he writes here. If she's his wife, if she's a wife of the Yavam, her husband, meaning the Yavam, inherits her property upon her death. If she is not a wife, then it's her father who inherits her property. Because with her death, the Av Yorish es Beno or es Bito, unless she's married. Since her marriage status is uncertain, therefore the Yavam and her father will divide her properly equally. I think it means he's recognizing Sikas Ibam as a marriage situation, and therefore Bal Yorich is each. No. I'm sorry. Suba Becheskes Yoshe Bal is referring to the Messiah, about which I think Beit Shammai would also concede that money goes to the Yavam or his Yosh. But here's the Machlokas Shri Beisil Beit Shammai. Nechasim and Echnosim B'yotzim Ima Bechesk right Ima. What's the status of properties that she owned because she came from her father's house? On that, Beit Shammai said the Yorshei Av should get half of that. And Beisil says it goes to the Yorshei Av, meaning Beisil says, very strange, Beisil saying that she's not married. He writes here in the Hebrew translation, he says, Kevan cha'afim hoisa misyabemes, ha'yeguf ha'nechasim shayach Allah, lo hoya bahem liyavam elaskus achilas peros, lochein af'ata shemesa below lisyabem, arei ha'nechasim nisharim becheskas mishpachta. And therefore, becheskas yorshei ha'av. So this is Nichsei Mulug, I think. So why is Nichsei Mulug Becheskes Yorshei Ha'av? Because it says even if she would be Misyabemes, those Nechasim remain hers. So they're only Nichsei Mulug. In other words, all he gets in the context of marriage is the rights to eat the increment, right? The interest, the payrolls. But otherwise, the nechasim themselves, begufan, still belong to her. Therefore, even now that she dies, the nechasim becheskas Yorshei Ha'av, meaning becheskas Aisha. Because what a woman brings into marriage, right, still, if it's Nitzei Malug, it still remains hers. he can only, within the framework of ksuba, eat the parents.
If she would die, then he would, her husband would nourish the husband.
Right. So we have to assume, according to Beis Hillel, that she's not considered married. But right, as we said before, I'll read it again. He says,
He knew beforehand, Armstrong,
yeah,
that by a normal Arusa, she is considered the husband go to the husband. Well, he's not a husband, but the husband.
if she dies,
I think you mentioned, but maybe my hypothesis is whether we consider Yovam being Arusa, or that's not purpose, or it's not considered like the Arusa.
on a Russo or Nesua, you mean?
Yeah.
You're saying even if he's only an Oris, he would still inherit his.
Mentions that in previous,
Oops, I'm sorry.
previous notes.
He says, Lachain Atash and Mesa below Hisyaben. Which means I think that they're not considered married. And then it says Kansa Areiki Ishtol Chol Bilvad shetehei ksuba al nichsei baila harishon. She'ena Yovam, he writes, mischayev lo ksuba in the Gersheno Yomas B'chayev the ein nechasav mishubadim l'ksubasa ki ishto isha hiknu lo min hashamayim. There's just there's no ksuba from the Yovam. The ksuba is collectible only from Nitzei Baila Rishon. So if he didn't leave her any nechasim, I don't get what's going on. But this is not the Messiah. So wait, as far as the Messiah is concerned, Areim Becheskes Yorche Abba. Why is that so? I'm trying to figure out. On the one end, it says Areim Becheskes Yorche Abba. That's as far as Ksuba is concerned. But with regard to Nechasim and Nechnasim Yotze Imad, is Areim Becheskes Yorche Abba. So let's try to understand what the difference is. I mean, it sounds like we're being posek al shtei seifim. On one hand, Becheskes Abba means we view this as a marriage, even though they didn't consummate the evil. On the other hand, Areim Becheskes Ha'av, which means we're not going to activate the principle of Bal Yorishis Ishto because it's only a Zikas Yimel. So why did you tell me that the Ksuba is Becheskes Yorshei Abba? That's what I tried to insist, that Ksuba is related to marriage. Even though the Yibam has not yet been consummated, but the only candidate for marriage is the Yavam. Oh, you could say maybe even better than that. The Yavam is saying, why should I pay you? Your ksuba is collectible from my late brother, meaning your late husband, because I didn't marry you. I was compelled to marry you by Torah law because of the chova of Yibum. That's min hashamayim. So if you don't have rights to collect ksuba from my estate, then collect it from your husband's estate. And that would be called b'chezkes yorshei haba'al. What does that mean, b'chezkes yorshei haba'al? That her rights to collect suba are from her husband, who died, but she has rights from the estate to guarantee that she could collect her suba.
I think what would happen is that the first dies, Cuba is transferred over to his living brother to be held in trust for the wife.
At the point that her husband died.
First husband died, they transferred it over. Now he's holding it for the wife.
Right.
So he can't dispose of it. It's for her benefits and all of that. If
Now she falls for Yibum.
if they do Yibum, that's going to be her kasuba if he dies or divorces. Going to be what they were holding in trust. Because she died in between, now it's going to fall to that surviving brother because he had.
So can you explain to me why the Yorshei Av why do they have a claim, according to Beit Shammai at least, the ksuba? Because with the death of her husband, she collects the ksuba. And if she's not married to another husband, then the father, etc., right, has rights to inherit his daughter.
In this interim, where they did Yibum or Chalitza, he doesn't have complete control of it. Because if he does Yibum, transfer, you have to wait until the second husband has to pay it. Or when she's released, Chalitza, she at that point, she really doesn't have control of it.
So it's part of her, is part of what is given over to the Yorshim after she dies, and in this case, her Yorshim are according to Beit Shammai are the Yorshei Ha'ah. So the Yorshei Ha'ah, according to Beit Shammai, again on 50% of the estate, but anyway, they are inheriting the funds, the properties that her late husband was meant to give her within the framework of the ksuba because he married her, the late husband, he died, and she should be collecting her ksuba from his nechas. Therefore, when she dies, let her father collect that sum of money from from the from his daughter's estate. Did I say the father? I meant to say the father. What did I say? The father now has rights to collect, because again, she would have collected it. She didn't survive, so she died. Let her father collect it. He now steps into her shoes as the Yorich. And Yibum wasn't consummated yet. Or do we say no? Yorshei Abal. What would be Yorshei Abal, which is in fact, according to Beis Hillel Shita, there's no issue at all, because of, I guess, Zikas Yibum and Abal Yorish Ishta. Although Beit Shammai has a very logical, compelling argument that had she lived, she would have collected those funds from her late husband's estate, and therefore, with her death, her heirs should collect that money from the estate of the late husband. But nevertheless, if we view Yibum, Zikas Yibum, as if it were a marriage situation, right? Then, right? Then Abal Yorish Ishta gets activated. Is Beis Hillel absolutely convinced that the Yavam is like a Baal? Right? Because Beis Hillel is completely undermining the situation, the position of Yoshei Abal. Am I correct? Because according to Beis Hillel, who's going to inherit the ksuba? It's Yoshei Abal. How did that happen? Unless you can assume that she's married and Abal Yorish Ishta. But then he gets in a chosim and a chosim ayotzim ima. B'cheskes Yorish Abal. What happens to marriage relation to the Yavam? I still don't have it. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Steve?
Oh no, I mean, because I think the ksuba is in limbo. When her husband died, because for boom, she cannot collect it.
Okay, so let the Baal collect these. For what? Wait a minute. Arei b'cheskes Yoshei Habal. Well, this doesn't make any sense, actually. Take the Mishnah literally. Harei b'cheskes Yoshei Habal. The Baal is not going to inherit that money. That money belongs to her. She's gone. Unless you assume that there's a marriage relation, and then it's Yorish's. Why does he say that in the case of the Chasm Yotzim Ima, he says, he's trying to answer that question, I think. Afim Hoysam is Yabemes, a Gufan of Chasm Shayach La. Well, Hoyabahem, Liyabim, Yavam, excuse me, Elaschus Achilas Peros. Achein Af Atosh, Mesa Belolis, Arein Chosim Nishorim Becheskas Mishpachta. So he's differentiating between the Guf and the Peros. When it says in our Mishnah, Arei Becheskas Yoshei Av, it means the Guf. The Guf belongs to the Av, because even had they gone through with Yibum, the rights of the Yavam would be limited to Peros. Again, let's see one more time and then we'll let you go. If if we're dealing with the ksub itself, then it goes to Yarshei Abba. What does that mean? That these funds are funds to be paid for marriage. So the Yavam, we anticipate the Yavam to be the married partner of the Yevamot. So those funds, it's not like that's what bothers me. This is not Midin Yerusha at all. It's not that the husband, the Yavam, is inheriting his wife. It's that the monies that were earmarked for Haksuba are being paid by the marriage partner, in this case the Baal, to his wife. But now she dies, and the monies that are earmarked for payment of Aksuba, since she's gone now, remain in limbo. So, and in limbo here in this case, what does in limbo mean? It means that it is inherited by the Yavam. 1 second, is he inheriting anything? His late brother, let's say, had 200 zuz in the bank. Now he's going to be the proud owner of that bank account, even before Yibum. But as far as the other nechasim are concerned, all he gets is payros. And Guf HaKarka belongs to her, now it goes back to her father. I don't know. Hey, I hear a bunch of svaras and, this, that. I don't have a clear cut. I can't honestly say that I have clarity. Problem is that.
But I think it's still the idea that she didn't have it with the.
Oh, what happened? Her father died before she died, or what?
The Mishnah says, Shemeres Yom Shem Nofel Lo, Kosim, Shemeres Yom. So, time that she became a widow, that she got these in Kosim. Found them, or whether it had to be from Alan.
Oh, that's going to be, the Gemara is going to ask Maishna, Reisha, Maishna, Sefer. But yeah, so in the Reisha, we said that even Beis Shammai on Moda that what? That they're Hanachas.
She can sell them, she can do it.
Right. But this is not. Oh, and then so Mesa is going to ready introduce the Machlokas Beis Beit Shammai. So what were you saying, David? I'm not sure I understood your point. Can you review it one more time?
What I'm saying is that the whole legacy is got to do with what she receives now, while she's a young, she has a young, or the whole thing of the Yibum that she received, she found the Chosim, she got the Chosim, that's only from that time. We're not talking about previous, before she became a young.
I'm not focused. I apologize. I'm just not. If you could say one more time, where in the Mishnah are you up to? Are you the beginning of the Mishnah? Okay. Yavam shenaflu anachasim modem Beit Shammai Beis Hillel shehi mocheres k'nosenes v'kayim.
Only those that naflu, possibly naflu then at the time she was a Yevamot. Not anything from before.
But I would have said with a Kal V'chomer. In other words, even if she has nechasim that fell into her possession while she was already a shomeres yavam, she still has rights, exclusive rights to those nechasim. If she had nechasim even before she was a yavam, let's say her father died before her husband died, kol shkein v'kal v'chomer, that the principle would be mocheres v'nosenes l'kayim. Do you agree with that? Or am I pulling a wool over your head? I think that's simple, no? The chiddush here is that even though she acquired these nechasim when she was already shomeres yavam, and you might think, therefore, when they fell into her possession, the yavam is vying for rights to these nechasim. But mashmallah, no, and nobody denies this. The yavam has no rights to those nechasim, and how much more so if her father, let's say, had died before her husband died. I would think that surely the yavam would have no rights to those nechas.
No, wouldn't that be that the father died and she got the husband?
Right.
While she was married to her original husband, he gets to use property.
Right. He may get. See, we don't know yet about Peros here. It says here, Mocheres v'nosenes v'kayim. I don't know, is that referring to the Peros? I'm not sure. I mean, but again, I would still argue.
No, the Mechira is the Kaim.
Right, but is the Mechira Kaim only on the Guf, but the Peros belong to the Yavam? I don't know. It's not clear to me what it means, Mocheres v'nosenes v'kayim. If it's a complete mechira, then once again, I would say that if her father died earlier, what are you saying? You're saying that since her husband already died, therefore, Yavam, I don't know. I'm just gonna have to apologize. I have to go over this 50 million times. I just don't have the basics here. There's no clear, simple introduction here to this sugya. At least I don't find it yet.
When the husband dies, this one.
You're pushing me there.
Properties back, all the properties again or not? Or they go to his family?
You're talking about a married woman?
So
Her husband dies.
No kids, husband dies. Properties, and she had property, she bought the properties in, so he died.
Right.
So did the properties go back to her?
I would assume so, because these were properties that she inherited from her father. Those are hers. She has to share the payros with her husband in the context of ksuba. If he's out of the picture, never he went, then I would like to assume that she reacquires that which is hers from the beginning. In ksuba, she has to give it as part of the agreement of the marriage to allow him to eat the payros. But now that he's out of the picture, I would think now she has the goof, and now she also gets the payros back. I don't know if that makes sense to you, or if it helps you. The issue here is that even though there's a Yavam in the picture, he cannot block her sale, which let's assume, for argument's sake, includes even the payros, which I'm not sure. Even that basic idea I don't have clear. But let's say she can sell it as an outright absolute sale, including the payros, then the Mishnah is telling me a chiddush, I think, and nobody seems to argue about this, that the Yavam has no rights to payros. Why not? I mean, again, that's not clear. Why doesn't he have rights to payros? I guess because the marriage is only at a very early stage. Maybe it doesn't even reach the stage of erusin yet. It's lower than erusin. So within the framework of ksuba, he has no claim whatsoever to Yom. And he can't even claim the rights to eat payros. And now she dies. She's still a shomeres yavam. And the question is, do the Yorshei Abal, so then here we're going to have, Beis Hillel is going to split it in two. As far as the original is concerned, that's because Yorshei Abal. Because what? She never collected the ksuba, or because she's already a shomer yavam to get remarried to this guy, to marry this guy. Well, why is it so simple to Beis Hillel that the ksuba is now collected by Cheskes Yorshei Abal? I mean, the marriage didn't take place. The evening didn't take place. And Haraya, in the previous case, we said Mocheres Senes V'Kayim. But for some reason, it seems like Ksuba is different. As far as her general possessions are concerned, those are hers. I guess somebody should get Achilles Paris, I'm not sure who. But as far as the Ksuba is concerned, it has a different din, a different status. And according to Beis Hillel, therefore, B'cheskas Yorshei Abal.
Are we saying that making relatives having a Rusa? While
Again, I think if we focus on the ratio, and that gives her rights to sell in an absolute sale, a valid sale, that which she inherits from her father, then I think we're saying she's not even an Arusa. Or alternatively, maybe in a case of an Arusa, the Orus doesn't have rights to Hanachasim. But my problem is that if she dies, why do Beis Hillel insist that the ksuba is different than nechasim hayotzim ima? Beis Hillel agree that nechasim hayotzim ima are hanachasim, ha possessions. Again, let's not focus on peros because that's just going to confuse us. But at least as far as the guf akarka is concerned, it's hers. And with her death, her father is her yorich. But then we get to ksuba. And the din changes with regard to ksuba. And here we see the Yavam is sort of like slipping into the shoes of his late brother, as far as the ksuba is concerned. See, the ksuba was meant to be a payment from the Baal to the Isha. That payment never materialized because she died. So then we revert back to the situation where it's in the possession of the brother. He's gone. Now we view the Yavam as sort of like his extension.
if she dies, he inherits.
Again, he's only a Yavam, so I don't know if he has rights to inherit. I have a feeling this is a separate din in Ksuba. I don't even think Beis Hillel are committed to the position that Yibum is like a marriage. I don't think so. We saw that in the Resha. In the Resha, we said that Hanachas that she inherits from her father, she can go ahead and sell them. So we're not recognizing the Yavam as a marriage partner who has rights to Hanachas. And if we apply that in the Sefer, then in the case of Nechasim and Ithnosim Yotzim Ima, which are her possessions from Padmas Dinan, is Becheskes Yorshei Abba. The Yavam is not, it's not even Erison, he has no rights. But then Ksuba takes on a different din. That's where I get myself, that's where I bang my head against the wall.
But I think she didn't get paid to Ksuba because she wasn't entitled to it yet, Because if they did Yibum, it was gonna have to come at a later point. Since she didn't get to collect it now, when she died, it was still the possession of the deceased husband, brother, and now his brother's gonna inherit that from him.
Because the
He's not
relatives of her, meaning her father, had never had rights to that money. That money was never in their possession. It started in the possession of the Baal. It was now meant to be transferred to her, but that never ever materialized. So if that never materialized because she died,
Yeah, I think they're inheriting from the deceased brother, not from her.
yeah, I wish he would have spelled that out. That would have been a. He just says, "Ein yorshe beis avia zakoyim ligvos v'nitzei balo hameis." He doesn't tell you why the Yavam collects them. Maybe the Yavam is inheriting his brother, which he certainly would do after Yibum. But now we're talking before Yibum. And nevertheless, in some sense, he's already inheriting. He's inheriting from his brother those properties that were designated within the framework of marriage to be transferred to her after his death. And somehow the Yavam gets rights to those nechos. That's certainly a point that requires a little bit more elucidation. Like, I give you an example. Let's say the deceased still has a father alive and well. I don't know that the father died. So those possessions that were designated for Ksuba are not going to be inherited by the Yavam because the father comes before a son, before a brother. So I'm just not 100% secure or comfortable by assuming that somehow the Yavam inherits his brother's properties. These were properties designated for Ksuba. She couldn't collect her Ksuba because she died. Therefore, the possessions remain in the estate, so to speak, of the late husband, and now to be inherited by his brother. I'm not so comfortable with that. Maybe that's the key to unlock this mystery. All right, Hashem Yoyer ain't native. Maybe we'll get some help from above. All right, good. Thanks. I apologize. I'm having so much trouble with this. I mean.